The original Assassin's Creed sparked an absolute amazing series, but the franchise did suffer a little bit when they released game after game, making just subtle changes. It's been a little over 2 years since the last Assassin's Creed was released, and now we finally have Assassin's Creed Origins. Over the past week, I've spent a ton of time with Assassin's Creed, and it's about time that I came out with a review. So if you're on the fence and thinking about buying it, check out this review, and I hope it helps make a decision for you. First, let's take a look at a few examples.
Hey, what? Stop! You!
Contusions?
I'm fine.
Sit. 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 I'll take care of it.
You haven't changed.
You and I've always patched you two up.
Now, I am playing on PC with max settings, and for the most part, I sit above 60 FPS. You do have drops when you go into well-populated areas, and just when I first loaded up Origins, and I went into the city to kind of do the rest of the tutorial where you learn how to shoot your bow, I did have a little bit of experience with jumping around and lag issues. Now, I think that might have had something to do with my recording software, so I actually went and played through again without recording software, still had the same issue, and then I even tried lowering my settings, and I would still have these small little issues where you're running fine, and then all of a sudden it drops down to, that glitchy area where you're running at 20, 30 frames per second. But those little areas don't last very long, and it doesn't take too much away from the experience. Now, the music, sound, voice acting, everything is spot on. It sounds very good, and you kind of get wrapped up in the story, which is exactly what the sound needs to do. And I say it's spot on. There is a little bit of an issue with lip syncing sometimes, but it's not so much the words that are being said, it's the mouth isn't moving quite correctly. So, for the most part, I haven't had an issue. Now, the first thing I had to do was go into my settings and adjust the music volume down to about 55. And this made it where I could actually hear people talking. If you see in this clip, I'm following this guy and he's talking to me and I can't hear anything he's saying. So this really helped out a little bit, and you can see after that change, we do get kind of that little glitchy effect. Now, that might be because I did change that setting, but we are coming into this well-populated area, and you can see I am getting those sort of little laggy type issues where, when you're playing a game, you don't see those black spots everywhere, but you do definitely see them if you're looking for them. And now you can see after I jumped off my horse, it just goes crazy there for a second, and then it actually fixes. So these were really the only lag issues or glitchy type issues I had, which this is within the first few minutes of the game. So, like I said, I think that's to be expected. Rendering, things like that, it does take a little bit, but after this, it's pretty smooth. Now, Origins has a pretty solid story, and I found myself getting wrapped up in it. You play as a magi named Bayek, and he's out for, a vendetta against the Pharaoh and, some of the top guys. It's really that typical Assassin's Creed type things. But Origins does differ from what I've come to expect with Assassin's Creed, although I have not played the last couple of games in the franchise. But Origins definitely feels less of Assassin's Creed-like and a lot more like other, kind of adventure RPG type games. Now, before we get into some gameplay, let's talk about a few of the things that I've seen that have changed since the last Assassin's Creed I played. First off, there are ability trees: Hunter, Warrior, and Seer. Hunter is all about your ranged attacks, using that bow, and it feels good. Warrior is all about your melee, making you stronger, going in, weapons blazing and really doing a lot of melee damage, and Seer is more about being that sneaky assassin. Now, I first chose to go into Seer because I really wanted to play that assassin type game, and I feel that with the Seer tree, you get a little bit more options with that. You can put enemies to sleep, you can poison corpses, there's even a ability to cause someone to berserk, and, they flip out and go attack their allies. It feels very good, but that's kind of where we're getting into the differences within this Origins Assassin's Creed and the Assassin's Creed that I'm used to. There is also crafting within Assassin's Creed, but it's very simplistic. There are 8 resources. They even tell you where to find them, or a general idea of how to find those resources, and you use these resources to simply upgrade your kit. You can have, a bigger quiver, more armor, things like that. It's very, very simple, and it never felt like a chore to actually go pick up these resources. As far as your gear loadout, there are several different weapons to choose from. For example, within bows, there are 4 different types of bows: Hunter, Light, Warrior, and Predator bows, and they all perform differently. For example, I'm going to use this light bow, and I shoot at this bird floating in the water, and I hit nowhere close to him. So this means, hey, the range is very short because you have this very fast weapon. But if we switch to our Predator bow, which has a very long range and is much more of a precision shot, you can see we're able to aim straight at him and take that bird out, no problem. So using the right tool for the job is kind of key, and knowing what kind of situation you're getting into will determine your gear loadout. Melee weapons function the same way as your bows. Your regular sword is very quick, fast. It has that shield breaker that takes a little bit less time, as well as if you go into those heavy blades, they're much slower but do a significant more damage, and also have a decent cleave to take care of a group of enemies. Now let's get into the heart of Assassin's Creed Origins, which is the missions. First off, you have access to your trusty eagle Sinew. Now, Sinew can be used to scout out an entire enemy camp, as I'm doing here. You can fly around, mark enemies, that typical kind of Ubisoft type thing where, hey, you have access to these drones, things like that. You can scout out an entire camp and find the best way to approach the objective. Now, I don't have a particular issue with being able to do this. You don't have to choose to scout out areas, things like that. But I do kind of miss the going in and not knowing where things are and actually being an assassin. Using your surroundings to take care of objectives, things like that. And with access to Sinew, you really don't have that anymore. Most missions I go on, I completely scout out a whole area and know exactly what to expect. Now, another thing is the AI is not just incredibly intelligent within Origins. I am playing on normal mode, so it might be a little bit different higher up, but you can successfully snipe an enemy and then transport their body to either grass or just away from where the enemies will rotate over. But you also can kill an enemy, poison their body, and then poison everybody that comes around it. So you do have some options, but it feels less sneaky and more action-packed, which, it is Assassin's Creed. I kind of miss that feeling of being an assassin. I want to sneak in and kill people silently, and now, it's very simple. Go in, pick off the outer guys, and then, sneak into the base, pick off the inner guys, and you're kind of done. Now, Assassin's Creed has always been about fatal takedowns, and that is one thing that is lacking within Origins. For example, right here, I end up throwing a sleeping dart at this enemy right here, and I go to use a takedown on him. He does die, he does drop his loot, but you can see he's writhing on the floor. You actually have to pull out your sword, finish him off, or you could use your bow, and then, transport the body elsewhere. You cannot pick up a writhing enemy. So if you do use a takedown, you do end up having to stand up and actually stab them. Which, in the skill tree, you do have other options to do these takedowns, but starting out, takedowns are fairly underwhelming in my opinion. Now, most areas or most bases do have ammo just kind of laying around, and you can just kind of look around, usually up high or inside of buildings you can find ammo, which is what I just did there. You do have your kind of assassin's pulse, which shows out lootable objects, and you know, your ammo is a lootable object, so just kind of look for one of those. You'll find some ammo, and this really allows you to constantly stay full on your tools, your arrows, things like that, because remember, every bow uses a different type of ammo, and your tool pouch all is different types of abilities. Now, I was able to grab a couple of those sleeping darts, and you can see here I'm going to just throw a couple of sleeping darts at these two guards. We're able to, you know, make them fall asleep, and there's a guard just right there. You know, I really can't believe that he didn't do anything, but I go ahead and throw him with the sleeping dart as well. I'm able to do a couple of takedowns on these guards, and again, you can see I'm going to have to kill them before I can transport their bodies, and I'll just kind of throw them in the grass and move on from here. Now, one thing I do find a little bit disconcerting is when you throw a sleeping dart at an enemy, like I did with that one in the middle of the park, he just gets up and casually goes about his business. He doesn't alert anybody. You know, I would think if you randomly fell asleep, you would at least let somebody know, like, hey, something just happened. You know, I need to take a break. But the enemy just goes about his business, and, you know, to be quite honest, that does kind of take you out of that sort of assassin feel that I am kind of missing within Origins. I feel Origins is less about the assassin and more about the action, which, if that's the type of game you're into, Assassin's Creed Origins is right up your alley. And you can see I'm just kind of going around taking out these enemies. No problem at all. Not getting the base alerted. Of course, this is, again, on medium difficulty, and this is not very far into the mission. Or into the game. It does get much more difficult, but, you know, I do feel that these kind of issues last for as long as I've played. Now, I'm about halfway through the game, so I have not seen a whole lot of changes within this. You can still really get these details. The putting people to sleep and they just get up and shake it off, or killing their buddy right next to them. The takedowns, it does kind of take me out of just the overall feel of Assassin's Creed. There are a couple of other things that just don't really feel very good to me. And although it doesn't make it a bad game, it just kind of takes you away from that Assassin's Creed feel. For example, these 4 soldiers standing in the street or at this Coliseum, I put 3 of them to sleep, kill one of them, and then I go over and actually take down the other 3 that are laying on the ground. Nobody comes to assist. Nobody's really screaming and yelling. You know, it's pretty calm. You know, there's people casually walking by on their camels, things like that. And you can see, again, I end up having to use my sword to actually kill those enemies that I did a takedown on. So, you know, all in all, it doesn't feel the best when that kind of situation happens. You know, I expect there to be a reaction within the crowd. You know, no soldiers were alerted, nothing happened, they didn't send in the cavalry, you know, people didn't run off screaming to tattle or anything like that. It just kind of feels, you know, that's neat. Now, there are a ton of things that I actually enjoy about Origins. It's not all bad, guys. They have sort of changed the attitude of the game from being this sneaky assassin in your secret club to, you know, you're a vengeful guy with a sword going and taking down an empire. And although it doesn't feel the same, it doesn't feel bad. It's very enjoyable. I would definitely say if you enjoy these type of games, Assassin's Creed Origins is definitely a pickup. But if you're looking for that sneaky assassin type game, you're not really going to get that within Origins. You're just going to get a fun RPG with the Assassin's Creed name kind of attached to it. As for my final thoughts on Assassin's Creed, I think it's a great game, guys. I've had a lot of fun with it. The story is very good, and I find myself wanting to know what happens, which that's exactly what you want with a game like this. You want that story to be there, and it's here. And, you know, I do miss that sneaky assassin style of play, but you can play that way. You're not limited to just going in guns blazing, or arrows blazing, I guess. You can go in, be a sneaky assassin, poison enemies' bodies, put them to sleep and finish them off, drag them into the bushes. Or you can pull out your sword, ride your horse through the gates, and just start swinging until they knock you off your horse, jump out with your, huge club and just start beating heads. You can do either way, or you can even climb the tallest tower and use your bow to just pick off all your enemies. Always are fine, and I don't feel punished for doing any one way over the other. I feel Assassin's Creed has done a very solid job. Although there are a few flaws, like I did say, for the most part, I've highly enjoyed Assassin's Creed. Well, that's going to wrap it up for my Assassin's Creed review. It's a great game, guys, and I'm looking forward to finishing the story. I was actually kind of grabbed by the story. It's very good. So I really hope this video kind of showed you a few things and a few of my thoughts as coming from just an average gamer like all of y'all out there. Well, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more reviews, definitely let me know. I think I'm going to start doing game reviews. I've always had an interest in it, and now I do have a platform to kind of show off my thoughts and opinions about games. So, if this is something you would enjoy seeing from me, please let me know, guys, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to continue this. Well, thanks for watching, and if you did enjoy, show me some love, leave me a comment, think about subscribing, and as always, I'll see y'all in the next video.